We must come as Africans. And we need to understand that our responsibility is a great one. Because as Pan-Africanists, we are statesmen and stateswomen. That means our job is to help build the bonds across the diaspora. Our job is to weaponize our citizenship and our African consciousness to bring our people together. In order to do that, we must crush the triplets of destruction. And those are envy, ego, and individualism. Envy, jealous of what another African can do because they can do it better than you. Understand something. All of us have unique gifts. God did not make us all the same. Don't hate on somebody who can do it better. Find your gift and give yourself to you. No need for envy. No need for jealousy. And then we have to crush that paralyzing evil known as the ego. I refer to the ego as the European god of oppression that is inside of all African people. Through slavery and colonization, the Caucasian took his consciousness and put it in us. And I don't care how many trips you've taken to Africa. I don't care how long you've been here. I don't care how many books you read, how long your locks, how many African wardrobes you got. All of us, myself included, have that seed of white supremacy buried somewhere deep within your mind. And if you think you have freed yourself of it, you're the most enslaved African in the room. You must work to be conscious of the internal parasite of white supremacy. We have to rid ourselves of the internal parasite of white supremacy. And most of all, we have to declare war on the Caucasian that lives not in Ghana, not in America, not in Europe, but the Caucasian that lives inside of you. You can take the African out of colonization, but until the African takes the colonization out of himself, he's not free. You can take the American African or the Central and South American African, the Caribbean African, you can take them out of slavery. But until they take the slavery out of themselves, we will never be free. Our struggle now is one for the reclamation of African consciousness. We need a psychological reconstruction movement where we become Africans again. Because so many of us are part-time Europeans. We have to become full-time Africans. My beautiful African sisters, as you come home to Africa, and I know it's a process, but try to leave some of those European beauty standards back home. My brothers, as you come to Africa, please don't you show up with a snow bunny. It makes no sense. So you can come to Ghana with a Caucasian. There are these beautiful black single women we have here. If you don't like butter almond, we got butter pecan. If you don't like sweet brown sugar, we got light brown sugar. If you don't like African butterscotch, we got chocolate fudge. If you don't like pina colada, we got African watermelon. Whatever it is you need. Our women come every flavor. Let's not dishonor our ancestors by dedicating our life and our wealth to women of another community. As Pan-Africanists, we believe that being African comes first. Osagefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who gave to us a free and independent, liberated Ghana on March the 6th, 1957. Dr. Nkrumah, who came to Philadelphia and learned his Pan-Africanism from Marcus Garvey. In fact, myself and Dr. Nkrumah pretty much spent time in the same house of Garvey in North Philadelphia. Kwame Nkrumah said, "I am not African because I was born in Africa. I am African because Africa was born in me." As we come home from across the world, let us not come just to relax. Let us not come just to make money. Let us not come just to vacation. As we stand here tonight, most African people in the world, the Kingdom of Africa, and the entire diaspora do not have food security. Most African people in the world do not have medical security. And many African people in the world don't even have land security. So we got work to do. And one of the things we got to do is build industry, build infrastructure, and build institutions. Africa must be made better because the American African came home. Africa must be made better because the Caribbean African came home. Africa must be made better because the South American African, the Canadian African, the Central American African, the European African, the Australian African came home. The Right Excellent Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said, "No one can destroy the African but the African himself." Mr. Garvey said, "And if black men and women are not careful, we will drink in all the poison of Western civilization and we will die from the effects of it." Mr. Garvey said, "We don't struggle because we African, we struggle because we African and disorganized. Let us get organized, brother Garvey. Let us get organized." The job of the diaspora African, the job of the repatriate African is to bridge our people around the world. You know, life expectancy in Ghana is about 66 years old. Osagefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah joined the ancestors at about 62 years old. So in 50 years, the life expectancy in Ghana hasn't grown but a few years. That means we got work to do. All these nurses we have in America, all these nurses we have in Africa, why can't we have a Pan-African nursing convention to talk about improving the quality of life? As I travel the world, wherever I go, there's 5 things I see everywhere. I don't care if I'm in Ghana, I don't care if I'm in Nigeria, I don't care if I'm in Malawi, I don't care if I'm in Gambia, I don't care if I'm in London, I don't care if I'm in Philly, I don't care if I'm in Brooklyn, I don't care if I'm in Jamaica, I don't care if I'm in Guadeloupe. What are the 5 constants of African people? Number 1, white Jesus. There is no psychological freedom for African people as long as your deity looks like your enemy. Until your deity no longer looks like your enemy, you are not free. Nothing wrong with being a Christian. Mr. Garvey was a Christian. Nothing wrong with being a Muslim. Ahmed Sekou Touré of Guinea was a Muslim. But the images of your deities must look like yourself. And everywhere in the world, black people are still raising their children on a diet of Caucasian divinities. We have to change. Number 2, too many single black women. Brothers, you got to get married. Whether you get married today or get married next year, you have to get married because the any truly revolutionary Pan-Africanist school systems for our children I have found in the world. I remember being in an African country once, and I won't call the name, and they greeted Dr. UMAR before I spoke to the students in the elementary school. And these beautiful African children started singing, "God Bless the Queen."